You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
CYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. Hope you guys are ready for a news-packed show. So, without further ado, I remember hearing very clearly from the Attorney General's office, no, I'm not talking about Pam Bondi, we'll get to her later, but the senior associate staff, let's say, the Deputy Attorneys General, that the reason that the federal government had left some of the names redacted in the Epstein Files is that there were individuals in those files, some of them who were innocent, who had nothing at all to do with the investigation whatsoever, other than perhaps a moment of speaking to law enforcement, and that, honestly, that there just shouldn't have to be unredacted. And then all of the influencers got out there, and those that listen to influencer culture, and they said, black bar bad, black bar bad, black bar on paper. Black bar on paper mean hide, black bar bad. And I said at the time, months ago, that because they had rolled out the Epstein file release so poorly, because it was so atrocious, that eventually they were going to have to release a certain number of individuals' names, and they were going to end up releasing individuals' names who are innocent. And so the file dump commenced, and then Massie and Khanna said, nuh-uh. Massie, of course, Thomas Massie, Republican, very libertarian from Kentucky. Khanna, a very performative Democrat from out in California. They led this bipartisan effort, and they announced, we went into the DOJ. We went into it, and we found files. And not only did we find files, in those files, we found names. Here's what they said about these names.
A little more homework. There are 6 men. We went in there for 2 hours. There's millions of files, right? And in a couple of hours, we found 6 men whose names have been redacted, who are implicated in the way that the files are presented.
Wow. These 6 men. These 6 men just, and they make it sound as though like every couple of pages, you'd see the same 6 black rectangles. And you would go, oh man, they did their investigation. There are 6 super ultra powerful billionaires of the oligarchy. They're out there. Epstein Filesing it up. Me, I'm over here with AOC and my pudding, but these people are out there. And then Thomas Massie, Khanna said these 6 people. And then a lot of people in Congress and also in the broader media said, okay, well, you have the power of the speech and debate clause to get out there if you're so confident, if you're so cocksure, you get out there and you say it in front of God and everybody on the floor of the House. And boy, did they. And Khanna got out there and read the names of a couple of guys like Salvatore Nuara, Zurab Mikeladze, Leonid Leonov, and Nicola Caputo. And a lot of people pointed out, yeah, there's like one billionaire's name who we know in there, sort of the 6. That's not one of the 6 that I just listed. But these particular individuals here, whose I did just list, a lot of us in the media sphere, myself included, I think on the broadcast said, I've never heard of any of these people before. No one's ever heard of any of these people before. Well, wouldn't you know it? It just so happens that those individuals that Thomas Massie and Khanna were so sure, that, as you heard him say, insidiously throughout all of the files, oh, they're peppered throughout the scandal. They were individuals that the FBI had asked to be part of lineup photos, lineup for, when the victim comes in to identify the criminal. You've seen, the unusual or the usual suspects, I should say. You bring in a bunch of people who look like the guy who's the perp, and you bring in the perp, and then the victim has to identify which one. So Khanna and Thomas Massie doxed 4 innocent people who had nothing to do with nothing. They were just picked because they looked like somebody else. And they have been flooded, inundated with death threats, people doxing home addresses, phone numbers, bank records, harassing their families, all because the FBI said, hey, you look like kind of like this other guy that's a person of interest in this case. Will you come stand in the lineup? Way to go, Thomas. Way to go, Ro. You got a couple of innocent people, a bunch of death threats. And oh yeah, you were warned. This is exactly what it was. But don't worry, Khanna, he did some pivoting. And I mean some Ross Geller trying to move a couch style pivoting. So he got out on X because he realized there is a serious defamation lawsuit that is coming right for his hindquarters and right for Massie's, and rightfully so. Because again, they didn't just get out there and say, oh, there are some names that are redacted. As I said before, once you push for everything, innocent people are going to get swept up and hurt here too. Massie and Khanna went in, they said they had 2 hours. They looked through and they found these 6 names, and they went and started yelling to the media about it. Todd Blanche, Attorney General Pam Bondi, when she wasn't, engaged in a yelling circus with the House of Representatives, said, you can come talk to us anytime, and we'll try to give you some insight, some answers on this. So after being humiliated, Khanna posted this on X today. I appreciate J. Sweet L.I.'s reporting, confirming today that Salvatore Noura, Zorab Michalazdi, Leonid Leonov, and Nicola Caputo were just part of a photo lineup and are not at all connected to Epstein's crimes. And then he shifts the blame because he has no cojones or testosterone at all to own up to his own mistakes. I wish the DOJ had provided that explanation earlier instead of redacting then unredacting their names. They have failed to protect survivor. See, now here we go on the other side. So you had individuals like Khanna and Thomas Massie who were like, release them, all of them, completely unredacted, all of them, all of them, all of them. And the DOJ said, that's going to take like a long time. Now, Pam Bondi should have been the one to say that. She should have been the one to come out there quietly, calmly articulating, here's what's going on, here's what's in the files, here's what isn't. And then also there's so many names, it's going to take us a long time with the staff we have. She didn't do that. We got, remember, the influencer binder photo contest. So he says they failed to protect survivors. They've created confusion for innocent men. No, that was you. And have protected rich and powerful abusers. We must have full transparency and truth. Here was Khanna trying to backtrack and sort of kind of apologize on the floor of the House. Again, he is liable at this point for millions of dollars in damages from every one of these individuals.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, Congressman Massie and I went to the Department of Justice to read the unredacted Epstein Files. We spent about 2 hours there, and we learned that 70 to 80% of the files are still redacted. In fact, there were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason.
6 wealthy, powerful men. Here he is. He's saying it. Nope. Part of an FBI lineup. Just like Massie. Look at him. He's so confident and smug. Look at him looking around, glaring at everybody like he's making a point. You go, girl.
When Congressman Massie and I pointed this out to the Department of Justice, they acknowledged their mistake. And now they have revealed the identity of these 6 powerful men. These men are Salvatore.
So he lists the name of the individuals.
Thomas Massie and me going to the Justice Department to get these 6 men's identities to become public. And if we found 6 men that they were hiding in 2 hours, imagine how many men they are covering up for in those 3 million files.
This is the core of this kind of insane 100% conspiracy theory all the time. Everything's a conspiracy, everything. The clouds, they're all artificial now. Everyone's part of the Epstein. Everyone you've ever known, secretly a robot android. God told me in a dream about Erica and Egypt and planes and crazy nonsense. When you believe those kinds of things, you end up doing crap like this and innocent people get hurt. Again, that's how he's so smug. And if they're hiding these 6 very rich, ultra powerful people, and everyone in the financial magazines is like, wait, these are all like billionaires? None of us have ever heard of these people before. That's because they're part of the secret Freemason Knights of the Cabal of the super other side of the quarter society. Stupid. You're a fool. So is Thomas Massie. Wasting everyone's time in Congress with this nonsense, with this garbage. Congratulations. Well done. About as useful as LaMonica McIver body slamming federal officers. We're going to send the radio crew off to commercial, and we're going to get into some of the other nonsense in Congress and Senate, because believe it or not, there is news, and it's not just in Munich. It's the Tony Kinnett cast live stream crew. We'll keep it right here. Radio crew will send a commercial. We don't really do that long commercial break here on the live stream. The House and the Senate, at home and abroad, is so touching. It's exciting, because there are bills to pass. There are things to go on. This is not a required Senate event, but a bunch of senators and like a California governor have run off to Munich To do what? To whine about the United States, not to be a part of really top secret, high intelligence, like armed services committee intelligence briefings. They have gotten in front of these many panels, both the House and the Senate, to whine about the United States. So, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from the House, the rising socialist star other than Zohran Mamdani, she gets in front of the Munich conference and just starts whining this mix of mulish nonsense. Here you go.
I'll start last to first. I think this is a moment where we are seeing our presidential administration tear apart the transatlantic partnership, rip up every democratic norm, and really calling into question, as was mentioned by David Carney at the World Economic Forum, the rules-based order.
So far, this is Kamala 2.0. I still hold the belief that it is going to end up being Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the next presidential race. And right now, she's attended the Kamala school. Now, look, we've all been a part of conversations where we weren't quite paying attention, and you try to fake everyone into believing that you actually were by wandering around the bush. It should not take you at a major global conference on security and how you handle yourself, or I guess what Gavin Newsom thought it was all about climate change. It shouldn't take you this long to come to Carney's name. But, AOC, the lady of no understanding of how many branches of government we have. The lady who thinks that we need drinkable air.
We have, or question mark, do we have? And so I think one of the reasons why, not just myself, but many of our colleagues here, in fact, many Democrats that are here as well.
Oh, believe me, the American populace knows that Democrats have left the United States while the House and Senate are in session to go do nothing but whine and complain. You can do that here. There are anti-ICE protests outside of your local Burger King, or at least there were in Marion County, Indiana.
Is because we want to tell a larger story. That
joy cometh in the morning.
What is happening is indeed very grave. And we are in a new era.
By the way, this goes on with absolutely nothing of substance for another 2 or 3 minutes. And it's just that endless clauses that just kind of float off into the distance, evaporate, erased from existence. The story of when there are so many people that believe it's important that when you have a question mark and you don't, but also you kind of do, that's Emmy Award winning stuff right there. Beautiful. Incredible. Senator Mark Kelly is out there too, running his mouth. A little Politico booth set up for him to go wail every couple of minutes.
But when we get that again, and I hope we will in the future, we can put this all back together.
They believe you?
Do
Europeans?
I know you have to ask them.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little bit, depressing to be here.
Right.
And
my brother in Christ, you booked the flight. It's depressing to be here. I really don't want to be here talking to Europeans. Dude, you didn't have to go. There's no set of orders to sail over there, Captain.
With what we have to deal with at home.
Ah, yes. Exciting, interesting, very, very neat. Thank you very much for that, Senator Mark Kelly. Super and duper. Now, again, here at home, we actually had some senators that were doing a couple of decent things. And I'll even go out on a limb here and say that while we didn't get to play the clip of Attorney General Keith Ellison from Minnesota up against Bernie Moreno from Ohio yesterday, we're going to do a little of that here in a minute. Susan Collins, surprise of surprises, has now come out in favor of the voter ID Save America Act. But we got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. A lot of news to cover tonight. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on The Daily Signal.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC, where it turns out when you don't simultaneously send a stream to Rumble, your live stream works. Incredible, amazing stuff out there for you techies. So let's talk a little bit about the Senate here at home, because we'll get to Gavin Newsom crying about climate change and praising China more than, well, almost as many as some California individuals who slept with Fang Fang. Susan Collins, the surprise of surprises, was undecided on the Save America Voter ID Act that would require standards for voter ID. Again, really incredible high-level invention stuff. Again, she was just heard talking to, I believe, the Lindell TV correspondent who somehow gets more interviews with Congress people on the move than anyone that I've ever seen. Huge props to him. This was the clip of Collins saying she wasn't quite sure. She was still looking at it.
Now that the Save America Act has passed the House, can we count on you to support it in the Senate?
I'm looking at it. The House made some significant changes. For example, you would not have to prove citizenship every time you vote.
So again, the House relaxed the standards on the Save America Act just a smidge. So again, kind of like a renewing your driver's license. You don't have to do everything every time. The important thing is the first time we double, triple, quadruple check that everything is all A-okay. And now she is in favor of it. Several major outlets have reported this. I believe there's a press statement or some similar communication that's been out there. I don't have it in front of me. So, you know, if this is a hoax, it'd be a strange one. But she has come in favor of it, which is excellent stuff. Force the talking filibuster. Also, Bernie Moreno from Ohio is emerging as what the Senate needs. So, Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, he goes to the Senate to argue about immigration customs enforcement and why, as the Attorney General, he doesn't enforce any laws whatsoever at all. Any of them. He doesn't put people in jail. He doesn't keep them in jail. He doesn't investigate fraud. He doesn't investigate sex abuse. He doesn't investigate domestic abuse. He doesn't investigate immigration fraud. He doesn't investigate trafficking. The man is a who's who of absolute worthlessness. So he goes to Congress, and as much as I do, in fact, enjoy a good rootin' tootin' boxing match, a nice, heave out the ashes, come to Jesus moment, all of these congressional committees are wearing on Americans. They're exhausted. They're tired of turning on the TV and seeing Senator Josh Hawley, who may, with good intention, and may rightly so, be yelling, screaming at Attorney General Keith Ellison as he's just sitting there saying, lie, 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 like a really annoying alarm clock. Or you go over to the House committee meeting, and it's Thomas Massie and then Jamie Raskin and Pam Bondi doing a WWE style, The Rock with the chair, that kind of stuff. Nobody's really in the mood for that. So Senator Bernie Moreno out of Ohio, again, I recently started following some of his press stuff because of our excellent correspondent in Ohio, Rebecca Downs, over at the Daily Signal. You should absolutely read her work. Stellar investigating work there. He had probably the most effective exchange with Attorney General Keith Ellison about the entire left's vision on everything regarding illegal immigration, down to this kind of weird hypocrisy that you see Democrats going over to Munich to lick a bunch of German and European feet, saying, oh, you're so much better than us. You're so wonderful. I wish we were more like you. You'll notice how Moreno kind of backs him into a corner over this one, and that was yesterday.
Senator, what if they had a good faith basis to say they would be persecuted in their home country and subjected to real oppression there under international law?
So you hear Ellison, he's going, well, what if they have a really good reason to just come here and declare asylum? They enter illegally. And by the way, there is a small grain of truth to this argument. There's a very small grain of truth. All right, imagine there is a family, the actual people that Democrats tell you, like the poster card, right? Sweet little abuelas, the mother who's 27 months pregnant. She has 15 diseases. She's probably a paraplegic. And she barely, the cartel traffics her across the border because they do that, right? And then once she's here, they then declare asylum. Maybe they were hunted for not being socialists in Venezuela or something. There is a small sliver of argument there to be made from a moral level. I'm not talking about the legal level. There's a small bit of truth there. However, the vast majority of those who are immigrating illegally across the border are not those cases. But he makes the emotional appeal here. He says, what if they come here and they think it's super safe and wonderful? That's the merit that he's arguing here. And this is Moreno's response.
Are provisions for them to make a case?
That's a phenomenal point. Mexico and Canada, do you consider those to be safe countries or no?
Now he's backed into a corner because all of these Democrats like Keith Ellison, Tim Walz, all the way out to California, Gavin Newsom, all the way to the East Coast, your Bernie Sanders and your Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and your Jasmine Crockett's, They get out there and say Mexico and Canada are wonderful and they're safe. There's no threats. There's no danger. Just party balloons, maple syrup, allies, and good times. But how you answer that in this debate matters, because you can't simultaneously say that we got to get him out of Mexico. It's so dangerous there. And also, Mexico's safe and wonderful. Mama always said Mexico was like a warm hug in the summer breeze.
Generally, I do, but there are certain
generally you do? Wow,
well, I mean, I would just say this.
Because he realized he's being backed into a corner. Generally, they're safe countries?
You border Canada. Don't insult your neighbors to the north.
No, I love my neighbors to the north.
Well, so is it a generally safe country?
Generally, yes.
So then somebody seeking asylum could certainly be safe in Canada and Mexico, no?
The response to this is incredible. It is as though someone is asking, hey, do you have a list of onomatopoeias or stutter words to say at the beginning of a sentence? I'm trying to create a list.
Now, so like if somebody, we do know that in Mexico, which is another country I truly admire and think is a wonderful country, but there have been cases of persecution, people who have legitimate fear.
People aren't safe in Mexico? Refugees cannot be safe in Mexico?
So then why would we have an open border policy with Mexico? Again, look at how Moreno carries himself. Calm, like Brandon Gill over in the House. He still has the good points. He's not backing down. He's not doing any muley mouth establishment nonsense. He is the airline pilot. He is the calm, disappointed parent. That is what Americans want.
Some might not be. And I think,
that's the antidote to this, by the way. To your J.B. Pritzkers and your Keith Ellisons and your other chubby Democrats that they roll in on the dolly and they prop up in front of committee.
Maybe we shouldn't have a free trade agreement with them then.
I didn't say that, but what I would say, Senator, is that we should hear their petition. Gotcha. We should at least hear it out. We should say, is there a well-founded and legitimate fear of persecution in your home country?
That can't happen in Mexico?
Well, I think that she should just follow the international protocols that existed. And
it is, which is that you seek asylum in your nearest country that you are seeking asylum in.
Survey says that's correct. Knowing your stuff, doing your research, and remaining calm. Again, is there a time to fight? Absolutely, 100%. But what Americans are, by every piece of available polling data, growing tired of is the performance politics. Now, we're going to get back to Zohran Mamdani in a second because, no, I changed my mind. We're going to cover that right now because that actually fits along this particular thread. We'll get back to Gavin Newsom's performative China nonsense in a second, like this.
China gets it. Look at their GDP growth last year. Where was their GDP growth disproportionately?
Oh, yeah, like praising slave labor. We'll get to Gavin here in a minute. The entire purpose right now of political theater, where you get out and you advocate for things that people don't want, and you're really, really confident about it, like you're trying to bluff your way into a concert. Like, if I just act like I'm here, security won't notice. That's not getting past Americans anymore. Zohran Mamdani is an excellent case of this. Of course, earlier this week, the 19 homeless that were dead because he didn't want the police telling homeless people they couldn't freeze to death under a bridge. Because, the police are bad or whatever, and they might give you generational trauma. Well, now Zohran Mamdani is out yet again, advocating for the release of an attempted murderer who rushed police with a knife, who were answering a domestic abuse call by the attempted murderer's wife. So here is Mamdani going all in on, please, oh please, release the attempted murder man. He didn't mean it or something. Radio crew, we got to send you off to commercial, so head over to the live stream, youtube.com/Daily Signal for that. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Here you go.
The Queen's District Attorney is expected to bring charges against Javed Chakrabarti later today. I'm just wondering if you talked.
So you'll notice the staffer who's like, oh, I'm sorry, we're only answering questions about buses. Mamdani likes buses and trains and sometimes airplanes. No more questions for Mr. Mamdani except for buses and how they go round and round. I love staffers like that. I hate that no matter who it is, by the way. And I understand that it's frustrating, in press conferences. People want to start asking about other things. You're there to do a thing. You're an executive. That means there's a lot of things for you to do. And you go there to talk about this one thing and people want to, I understand that. But also, he takes the question anyway, so...
To the Queen District Attorney about that. If you talk to the family, I'm curious what you would say about it.
So then one of the other pressers like, off topic. We're NPR. We're not supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to lick your own hands and ask what they give you in the script.
So I can I think I caught the bulk of your question.
He's going to go for it. I love it. The arrogance of young socialists is just beautiful.
I have not directly spoken with the district attorney. I will say, however, that no family should have to endure this kind of pain. What they need right now is care, dignity, and support.
You know who also needs care, dignity, and support? The people who made the domestic abuse call.
Chavez should not be prosecuted by the Queens district attorney. His handcuffs should be removed.
Oh, we're just calling for the release of attempted murder. Now, again, I do have this particular clip. They showed up. This is the body camera footage. Again, thank God for body camera footage. So this individual, Jabez Chakraborty, I'm reading it phonetically. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it there. But they're getting ready to enter the house. His wife has called. There are domestic abuse allegations. Please come by. We are all in danger.
You called?
Yes.
Wife says you called? Or the police say you called. Wife says yes.
You come in?
Yes.
Can we come in? Respectful.
Oh my gosh. No, you're fine. You're fine. Good.
Showing, a little bit of, respectfully apologizing for tracking a little bit of snow in. Nice guys. So now you have the suspect, or the guy again, who was arrested in question. He grabs a knife, and then he flips it around so he can do like the slasher stabby kind of holding of the knife, the long paring knife.
Put the knife down!
So he takes it, and he starts rushing the officer. Look there, you see him flip the knife. Again, right there, see him flip the knife. So he starts coming at them. I'm going to make this the larger of the screen here so you can see. So you'll watch right here is where he'll flip the knife around from holding it normally to the I'm going to stab you maneuver. There it is. And he starts rushing them.
Move.
So then the officer shuts the door to put a barrier between him and the guy who was attempting to stab him. And then the guy opens the door and forces him, and then again ends up shot. Because the officer is acting in self-defense, literally on camera, you see it. And Mamdani went to go visit him. Oh, it's so sad, so terrible. How could it? Oh, he needs to be let go. The weird fetish that socialists have with letting mentally ill people act mentally ill in public and harm general society is truly one of the greatest, arrogant, disgusting, hubris-filled practices that is decaying society. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. We're going to get into some of this on the right, too. Don't you worry. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
In the rest of the country, same kind of performance. Same kind of theatrics that, by the way, are inciting individuals into committing real violent crimes. So in case you were thinking that maybe this was, just something that was going on in Minnesota because it was a very tense scene, these rumors, these ICE tracking, ICE doxing, immigration and law enforcement tracking and harassing apps, training sessions, videos, encouragement groups are causing other mentally unstable individuals to think it is their moral duty to go and commit horrible, horrible crimes just based on a whim, just based on a rumor. A very disturbing video, one lady in Kansas City attempting to set fire to a warehouse because she suspects that ICE was going to use this particular warehouse complex. So she's seen on video spreading a bunch of flammable liquid and then getting out the light, then lighting it, and then getting out the lighter fluid to go try to trying to light at the windows so the fire then leaps inside, burn down the entire building. Remember when you were told this was no big deal when they were torching Tesla dealerships? You were, it's just property, who cares? That is domestic terrorism. Now, again, the company has since announced it owns the warehouse. They're just not moving forward with a sale to the U.S. government. No confirmation that ICE was actually using this. And even if ICE was using the facility, that doesn't okay arson. Just because some angry menopausal lady on the left has told you to her Instagram phone held way too close from the blurry, smudgy camera that you have a right to act against the Gestapo or whatever her SSRIs failed to prevent coming out of her mouth that morning, that doesn't give you a right to go commit arson or attempted murder or, like students did in Los Angeles, leave class for a noble walkout and then start assaulting federal agents in the streets. You don't have to do that, guys. You don't have to mob federal agents, commit arson, and all other kinds of things. You don't have to do that. But this kind of performative nonsense is of... Now, not all of this is the hyper-violent. There's also just the really disturbing, weird stuff. So also in Los Angeles, I believe in protest of Don Lemon and also in favor of getting ICE out. It was both chants are heard. You have people...
Protect the press! Protect the press! Protect the press! Protect the press! Protect the press!
Waving silicone plastic sex toys around. Now, I don't know why protesting against the arrest of Don Lemon or protesting ICE, I don't know why that would involve getting out the fake male genitalia and swinging it around and throwing it at vehicles. It does speak to some of the stereotypes of the average lib protester that they have a supply of these ready to go. Yeah, mentally unhinged behavior for sure. Now, that brings us over to the right side of things. And Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem is having a really rough time. And Kristi Noem is having a really rough time for a couple of reasons. Now, it has been fairly open knowledge in the broader political movement for the last couple of months that Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski are at odds with Todd Homan and individuals who have, served in law enforcement. They're at odds because Kristi Noem is not. She was a political appointee. And some of the political appointees have been very good. Some of them, well, Kristi Noem has said some very good things. So, for example, one of the things that she said, very good, she criticized sanctuary cities. This is also a focus of the Senate. It was also a call from Tom Homan, ending Operation Metro Surge. These types of high stakes, desisting into chaos kind of events will continue as long as sanctuary city and state policies are allowed to continue. So here's Kristi Noem criticizing that.
Instead of honoring these detainers against criminals who've trafficked drugs and committed crimes across the American people, Governor Newsom and California's sanctuary policies have released over 4,500 criminal illegal aliens back onto the streets to create more victims that will harm more Americans. We need him to work with us and these local law enforcement and community leaders and elected officials here in California to protect Americans, to make sure that we're interdicting more of these drugs before they poison more Americans.
So, not bad at all. Don't have an issue with that. That, again, cool, calm, collected, good stuff. Now, she did start getting off topic and again start talking about voter fraud, Maricopa County. Not what people are looking for right now, really, in what she should be focusing on, but here she goes.
You offered a couple of examples from Kansas, Maryland, and Iowa and such. Can you offer us any good examples of this kind of fraud in Arizona?
Oh, I'm sure there's many of them, but we want to make sure that we talked about several of them this morning at our roundtable that we had. We talked about individuals that may be registered to vote in this state but truly live in another state. I understand that you have mobile homes and boats on lakes that individuals may have as their voter registration address, but not necessarily that is where they live. They live in another state, such as California or on the East Coast. Those kind of situations are things that your county officials should be bringing forward and be asking your Secretary of State for the opportunity to take off the voter rolls if they shouldn't be there.
Okay. I mean, fine. But none of that, like this kind of new voter aim that Noem appears to be taking, is going to do very much to deflect from what is turning out to be kind of an ugly I say scandal. Again, a lot of this has been known inside kind of the movement for a couple of months now. And I say no as in they're kind of the schism in the Department of Homeland Security. Obviously, we've had on Tom Howell over from the Oversight Project. He and I have talked about this quite consistently. Homan, along with a lot of other senior law enforcement individuals who have served in law enforcement for a while. Again, cool concept. They say we should be releasing all of these detailed stats. And Kristi Noem's office has said, no, we're not releasing any of these stats right now. And it's just a weird series of moves. Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, Kristi Noem has some pretty rough stuff going on. So Noem is accused of prioritizing personal publicity, burnishing her personal stardom, essentially by griping at staff if she's not on TV enough, like she doesn't get enough media hits. Again, we've also seen before kind of the photo poses and branded jackets, caps, different props, all of this extra style and stuff. Again, I understand that you want to do good press releases and you want to look good. That's fine. I don't have necessarily an issue with that per se. However, there's then the issue of kind of the marriage stuff. So Kristi Noem is married to someone else. Corey Lewandowski is married to someone else. And yet it is pretty open knowledge that they are a little closer than just pals. So President Trump reportedly very uncomfortable with it because, again, you are the Secretary of Homeland Security. Keep it in your pants, do your job. She's not. She's not. Kristi Noem doesn't do a lot of her job. I'm sorry. She's not. Tom Homan would be far better suited in that position, or again, as I've said before, a airline pilot style kind of person, the disappointed parent, a Bernie Moreno style of guy who is cool, calm, doesn't take any crap, sets goals, accomplishes the goals, that's it. Not getting into screaming and fighting and like little quippy style matches in committee meetings. It's not useful. Now, there's also an allegation that Lewandowski, who's her senior advisor for some reason, fired a U.S. Coast Guardsman after Noem's blanket was left behind on a plane, and then the pilot was later rehired. They're also accused of together berating senior staff, administering polygraph tests to employees they trust, and fostering a confrontational environment. Now, look, I don't know how much of that is hearsay. I don't know how much of this the Wall Street Journal did all of the beating the pavement style journalism to obtain. I'll say this, though. This ain't helpful. This ain't useful. And for individuals to say, oh, well, it's just a hit piece. It's just the timing. Guys, a lot of this has been kind of open knowledge for a while. I'm sorry. I understand that I'm really a fan of a lot of the cabinet staffing positions that have been chosen compared to the first administration, for sure. Absolutely. Kristi Noem's history in law enforcement? Yeah, there ain't one. What's she doing there? Tulsi Gabbard has experience in intelligence. It makes sense that she'd do D&I work. Yeah, absolutely. Also professional, not getting in, back and forth patty cake slapping stuff. You can even make the case, although I don't think she's affected. I think that Pam Bondi's done kind of a really crappy job. That she also has done some okay work in attorney generaling in the past. But Kristi Noem's life work here is being a governor and like writing a book. Yay. I just don't think that's effective. I'm sorry. I'd say swap out Bondi for Blanche and swap out Noem here after the midterm, I guess if you have to, and for Tom Homan, I'd say. It's just not worth it. Just not worth it. It's not worth the distraction. There are things to be done, and the president's administration agenda is important to a lot of Americans. So instead of going up to the podium 15 minutes after something and immediately saying domestic terrorism right off the bat, again, you let the pundits do that, Holmes. You do the stuff that you're supposed to do according to the job. Radio crew, we're going to send you off to commercial. We're going to continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, all of those things said, I understand that there are some who may want to just say, well, I just don't believe any of it. As one comment put it, I don't believe nothing you are saying. Okay? That's totally fine. But I'm not going to be dishonest with you. What I feel about things, you're going to hear. Because when you hear other things from people that are like put on, that are the lines to be read, then a couple of years from now, if for some reason you're still hanging around, then I've said all of the nice things for you, and then all of a sudden I have a crisis of conscience and I start being honest with you, it's going to be quite an amount of whiplash. I don't really want to do that to you guys. Plus, it's less for me to keep track of if I just tell you what I see as of these things, right up front. Now, speaking of some rather interesting rhetoric on situations, Gavin Newsom of California the presidential hopeful with the mopeful, he also went to this Munich security conference du jour and started crying about, of all things, climate change. He's so mad that the Trump administration has rolled back a lot of the insane nonsense regarding climate change fear-mongering, which has been disproven time and time and time and time again. And all it does is cripple American industry. It cripples American innovation. And so Gavin Newsom got up in front of the Europeans, which, by the way, in the meantime, while Germany is learning how stupid it was to dive into all of that, and has decided to lecture everyone about calling people out to be more like China, which, again, an interesting move for sure. Here's the governor of California.
But the biggest problem is the deceit and the denial that's happening because of these special interests. And so you just have to have the courage to call it out. And I agree with you. It's infuriating what I hear privately, but is not expressed publicly. And so we have to call people out. They'll be held to account. They will be judged and ultimately judge themselves. And I think this is a moral moment across the board, simultaneous crisis, not just climate, but democracy. All this stacking of stress. And we all have a relationship to it. Society becomes how we behave. We are our behaviors. And so all of us have a role to play. All of us have agency. We can shape this conversation, but we have.
Now, I'm going to say this. I really admire whenever there's someone that is talking and is trying to be taken very seriously, and you hear in the background, like the background audio, other people talking because they don't care what he has to say. No one cares. He said, you need to get out there and take it back. Like, oh yeah, you know what Germany? He's like, you know what Germany need to get out there and endorse? Rolling blackouts so that Greta Thunberg is appeased. Oh yes, oh sweet joy off the apple tree.
To stand up with more clarity, conviction, and we have to be more consistent.
Which is really funny because Gavin Newsom will get into interviews, say something completely different. For example, talking tough on China, as he has with several of the conservatives that he has talked about and talked to on his podcasting. Then he'll get in front of everyone and say, oh, China's the best, they're wonderful.
China gets it. Look at their GDP growth last year. Where was their GDP growth disproportionately? It was in the clean energy space.
Yeah, slave labor solar panels. Woohoo. We're going to bring the radio crew back one more time. Don't go anywhere. A lot of stuff to talk about tonight. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. A very, very much needed Friday. Now, the President of the United States has actually had a pretty good week. A really good week. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, I like that quite a bit. I do. The President of the United States has done something that I very, very much appreciate, which is A, not taking himself too seriously. He's been very casual. And also, he's gotten a little bit annoyed with media asking him every 15 seconds what he's going to do on foreign policy. So where now, if people ask him, what is your plan here? Again, there's currently boats in motion, things in motion, a lot of things that are moving. And he's essentially like, I don't have time for your crap. I got things to do. I like it. I do. There's a little something about that I enjoy. For example, one reporter asks the question, are you considering land strikes on Mexico, Colombia, and Venezuela? I love that. Oh, yes. Who are you? From the Daily Who? Oh, you're from the Daily ABC, Beagley. Well, let me tell you, reporter just out of college, here's my military strategy. I've been saving it in this briefcase for you, the pimply-faced 32-year-old who's ready to give me your takes as a reporter. No, this ain't the Biden administration anymore where you give everyone 72-hour notice to clear out. So here's President Trump. There's the question. And audio's a little bit rough, but here's the question and then the response.
Are you considering land strikes from Mexico, Colombia, and Venezuela? What about it? Land strikes. Are you planning? Don't worry about it.
Come on. Are you considering land strikes? And then he starts like wackos, list of countries. He starts like, bouncing and listing all of the different countries of the world. And Trump's just like, don't worry about it. I don't know, man. I'm going to bump up a tariff on you if you don't shut up. I like it. I do. That's better for me than some of the individuals that have been on camera in the last week. And then President Trump does set the stage, I'd say, more clearly when it comes to Iran and what it appears the president is doing right now. So from this point, this is going to be analysis and speculation. I'm going to tell you what he has said. I'm going to tell you what's going on. And then I'm going to tell you my take on it. Just to be very transparent and clear here. The president of the United States has acknowledged that he has dispatched a second aircraft carrier strike group, this one being the USS Gerald R. Ford. Also to the Middle East, obviously the US Abraham Lincoln strike group is already there. And the president has made it clear that he has a series of things that he wants the deals to succeed with. Essentially, that this is what he could consider Iran's last chance. He's given them the last chance maneuver here. And saying there's a deal possibly, but if we don't get that deal.
Aircraft carrier that you decided to send, talk about why you made that choice.
Well, in case we don't make a deal, we'll need it. If we don't have a deal, we'll need it. If
we don't have a deal, we'll need it. Now, in strategic terms, what the president is doing here is what at least for how I'm reading. And of course, he talks about regime change a little bit as well. We'll go ahead and play that clip.
What can Iran do to avoid attack? Give us the deal that they should have given us the first time. If they give us the right deal, we won't do that. But, historically, they haven't done that. I will say they wanted to talk, but so far they do a lot of talking and no action. They've already started. Do you want this to change in Iran? Well, it seems like that would be the best thing that could happen.
He's like, well, do you want to see a different person in charge? And he says, yeah, it seems like that could happen. That'd be the best thing. What the president appears to be doing here, and turtling, stockpiling. The man is essentially like hiding in the shell. By that, which I mean, it's like the strategic. You're saving up all the resources, you're piling them together, you're organizing all of the pieces, and then when you're ready, then full sledgehammer down. Now, that may be what he is attempting to do. That may not be what he's attempting to do. From my read, though, now that I've seen him dispatch the second aircraft carrier, of course, now that adds to the USS McFall, Mitcher, Delbert D. Black, others like the USS Roosevelt, kind of in adjacent areas, Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, Red Sea, nearby. And then, of course, the littoral combat ships, the Canberra, Tulsa, Santa Barbara, operating in the Persian Gulf, or I guess in the case of the Santa Barbara, just in the Fifth Fleet. There are likely 2 fast attack submarines attached to the Lincoln strike group right now. We don't know the names of them for security purposes. And then there are a couple of additional missile cruisers, Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyers that are deployed alongside the Gerald R. Ford. So looks like resources are being piled up. I don't know when he's going to move or how he's going to move or what he's going to do with it. It's clear the Israelis wanted something slightly different. He told them no. And it's clear that the Jordanians and the Lebanese also want something slightly different than that. And he's told them no. So we'll see. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to let the man cook. That appears to be a pretty decent strategy. Now, one thing that I really do enjoy also is the way the president leaks certain things by not leaking certain things. So on the inside of the defense contract industry, some vague things about some tech. So for example, certain anti-drone countermeasures. You may have noticed that throughout our time on the show, I've never once been nervous about drone warfare because we have more than enough to take care of drones in an instant in ways that Ukraine and Russia couldn't dream of with all the vodka to make them blackout drunk in the world. So Trump here talking today about the discombobulator.
Unbelievable operation, but that was a smaller operation. But it was so precise, so incredible. Nobody thought a thing like that could happen. They even talk about the discombobulator because they never got a shot off. The Russian equipment didn't work. The Chinese equipment didn't work. Everyone's trying to figure out why it didn't work. Someday you're going to find out. But it didn't work.
I love it. By the way, we've known about particular kinds of jamming and interference, not just an electromagnetic pulse, which cuts out all power and communication that's not shielded correctly. But in the case of United States technology to disrupt communications and other kinds of defensive techniques, We've been using that since the first time that we bombed Baghdad during the Gulf War. So, just to be very, very upfront with you here, a lot of those things, we've had some of those things for a while. I don't know. There's something about that, the way the president is so proud of the military. Shane Gillis talks about this. Like, hearing the president describe a canine being deployed alongside troops is hilarious to listen to, because, like, look at that dog, ripped his throat out. That terrorist no longer had a trachea. I mean, come on. There's something about that that's pretty good. I don't know. The raw, unabashed pride in America the president of the United States has. I'm going to be honest. Top 10 reasons why Trump should be the president for America's 250th. That right up at the top. I love it. Pride in American dominance is the most Teddy Rooseveltian thing I can think of. It is an inherently American trait. And when AOC gets up in front of Munich and goes, I don't like it, and I'm sad, and also I'm kind of like Kamala now, the reason everyone groans is because we've seen this before, and it sucks. It was the same from Obama when he was down on the country. Radio crew, we're going to send you off to commercial for the weekend. We're going to continue on the live stream. We haven't even begun to hit the stride in our stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. All right, radio crew gone. Let's have a chat, you, me, here on the live stream side of things. In fact, I've looked at this angle for the camera for too long. Let's flip it over here for a second. All right. I'm aware there have been some particular stream issues. We have discovered in some conversations in the last couple of weeks that a lot of people who do stream to Rumble, we like a lot of the crew over there. A lot of good guys, especially on their marketing team. Really fantastic dudes. Their tech department, right about the time that Rumble released their version of YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels or TikTok videos, right around that time, the video quality and the stability of streams plummeted, and things have gone rather downhill. It really has to do, in kind of tech terms, with the handshake that goes between our system and Rumble itself. Rumble delays that handshake a little bit. It's very erratic, which means that if we stream anywhere else, YouTube, X, our syndication partners, it messes a lot of things up. So we tried this evening. What happens if we don't stream to Rumble? And hopefully you'll have noticed the stream has been particularly spring fresh, really clean and crisp. Additionally, you'll also notice there's closed captions. Some of our audience, they don't hear like they used to. No shame in that. Now you can click the CC button on the bottom of the screen, and you can hear some AI translate what I'm saying with like a 70% level of accuracy. So we're going to keep working on this. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know yet how we're going to handle what other platforms that we stream to in the future. So some of you I know are not a huge fan of YouTube, kind of as a whole model. I get it. I hear you. I feel you. But just to level with you, we really do need to make sure that we, try to get the stream up and stable as possible. Rather than offering a variety of goods, I would like the goods that we offer to be really high quality. That's kind of my take there. So that right up front to the live stream crew, which I knew would be right there. That's kind of my take on it. Now, on to other news. Arizona State University has made a very bizarre legal decision. There was a case with a particular professor, an Owen Anderson, who was forced to take a DEI training from the university. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. They said, you gotta. And he said, okay, how about this? Lawsuit time. And, it just so happened that at the end of that particular lawsuit, the man won. Excellent. Stellar. Love it. Fantastic. And then Arizona State University said, nuh-uh, and gave him a lot of grief. Now, I have a soft spot for this anyway because of how I got into this particular business. We might talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But this may be one of the most incredible cases that the Goldwater Institute out in Arizona has ever championed. Because right now, this university that's taking your tax dollars if you live in Arizona, and also federal grants, so that means the rest of us as well, this university is trying to make it so no one can sue them at all, ever, period. Zip, zilch, no matter what. Imagine going through all of the frustration of a major controversial lawsuit, digging through all of just the constant media attention, the nonsensical arguments made by lawyers, just to get to the end of it. Have the law rule that your employer did violate the law, but you no longer have the right to sue them. Well, that's what happened to Arizona State University professor Owen Anderson out of a DEI case that got really wild really quickly. Professor, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad I could talk with you today.
So obviously the DEI training that I believe you were forced to take by Arizona State University, I know who would have thought ASU would participate in these shenanigans. That was where the case initially started. Tell us about how things kind of began here.
Yeah, so 3 years ago, ASU sends out an email telling us employees that we have required DEI training. And it tells us that the purpose of this is to advance the national agenda of social justice. So right there, I know, okay, this sounds very political. And as I got into the training, I saw that it does indeed violate Arizona law, which prohibits any kind of race blame in Arizona public education. And that should be common sense. In other words, it's illegal to use tax money in public education to teach that a group of people are morally inferior to other people simply based on their skin color.
Kind of went through a whole movement that was supposed to do away with the whole racial guilt thing. But, some people are a little slow on the uptake. Yeah, well, exactly. And so I work with the Goldwater Institute, and we took this case to ASU to court to say this training violates state law. And their first response was interesting, which was to say, we don't have any DEI training. And then when we show, well, you got this, here it is, right? So they said, well, okay, but it doesn't violate state law. There's no race blame. Well, here's the transcript where it does. And so then what their follow-up was, they have a whole team of in-house lawyers. They're on staff, they're paid, but they don't use them. They hire the firm Perkins Coie, which your audience probably knows from the Hillary Clinton dossier, very far left wing. Trump had to rescind their security clearance last March. They hired this external law firm. You've got to have like a master's degree in just semantic garbage.
Well, that's what they did. So they want to keep this out of the courts. They don't want there to be a court case about this, not simply because they think they'll lose, but because we would then be able to put administrators under oath and ask them questions.
Yep.
And so Perkins Coie said, the problem here is that Anderson doesn't have standing. He can't bring a case like this. And so that's the stage we're at right now. The first court agreed with us and said, of course he does. If he doesn't, who does? But then they appealed it, and the appeals court took 10 months. This is usually like a 90-day or less decision. Took 10 months, got back to us in December and said, we agree, Anderson doesn't have any standing. So now Goldwater and I have taken this to the Arizona Supreme Court to say, you've got to adjudicate this, because if I don't have standing, then this law is meaningless. And I think that's the purpose, right? That's the bigger goal, is to basically nullify this state law. Because if no one can enforce it, then even though it's on the books, it's not really a law.
Really bizarre. You get into these loopholes of loopholes when you start dealing with some of these large organizations. When Indianapolis Public Schools was trying to fire me, they wanted to bring me into all of these big HR meetings. And I said, okay, well, then I'm going to bring my lawyer. I'm going to bring a lawyer because I'm not a member of the union. I'm an administrator anyway, so I couldn't have a person of the union with me, that represent the administrators. But still, I thought, well, I'm going to bring representation since the handbook outlines that I can. And they said, well, nuh-uh, because he's a lawyer. He's not a union. And so then my lawyer said, okay, cool. I am now Mr. Kinnett's union. And they're like, we've been out semanticked by the semanter. So it really frustrates me to see Arizona State University trying to say, okay, yeah, sure, we broke the law. Okay, yeah, sure, we also broke the law and did a bunch of racial guilt. You caught us red-handed, and that would be the Marxist red-handed in this particular instance.
Yeah, it's both, right?
But now, he can't sue us because the I before E rule states that except after C, employees can't sue their employers except every third Thursday in June. Come on now. I mean, this is levels of silly we haven't even found yet.
Yep. Well, and they also, there's another person on my case, which is he's there as a taxpayer saying, I'm also suing ASU as a taxpayer because my tax money was used to fund this race blame. And so they're also saying he can't bring a case. So an employee can't, an Arizona taxpayer can't. Who can? So again, it's this nullification of the law to say any laws like this can't be enforced. And the legislator will have to go back and somehow reword it. But there's something in Arizona law called called implication. You could have implied consent to be enforcing the law. And that is what Goldwater is using to represent the case, to say, look, it doesn't specify who can bring this case, because you'd have a list 10 pages long. It's implied in the law that someone who's employed can bring a case. And so the Perkins-Coie are overthrowing that entire law, the whole precedent. And that would affect all of Arizona law, which is why we're somewhat confident that the state Supreme Court will pick it up. They're free not to, they may not, who knows, but
right.
It's a larger legal case in Arizona. It's not just simply, should Anderson have to take DEI?
Correct. And this is one of the things that I think really matters. We've reached a stage in this country where everything is wrapped up in these bizarre civil lawsuits upon civil lawsuits, and anyone can do any of that, and the cases can last for 10 years, for crying out loud, all of the legal fees in the world. But yet all of these major institutions that are taking taxpayer money have, again, loopholes for dummies book to pull out of and suggest they can just go overturn an entire law. Again, the entire point of these lawsuits is to rectify damages that have been levied against an individual. And you're an individual who, under that particular policy, suffered damages by the own definitions of Arizona's state law. So there's no argument here that Arizona gets to say, well, actually, no one can sue us, unless it's a really bad cartoon plot where only the villain can hurt himself. So I'm confident with you as well. I think Goldwater Institute's going to get the day in court, which they should. Goldwater's usually were pretty on point about these things.
Yeah, and that's where the case became a larger case. So it's no longer only about DEI. That's what it'll be about if we go to court. But now it's about, can an ASU employee hold ASU responsible?
Who
and
gets
so
to
I've
hold
said
these taxpayer-hungry organizations accountable in court?
Right, but that's what I've said to my colleagues. Every one of you should be rooting for me, because I know up until now I'm the conservative guy that you're not in favor of, but now I'm actually representing you, because one day if MAGA takes over and you have to take the MAGA ICE training and you object, well, you won't be able to take ASU to court if I lose.
Mm-hmm. Well, then at that point, then no longer will such, loopholes exist. That, it would evaporate into the mist. But no, really, on principle, it does matter. Absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree. Again, Goldwater Institute's work here, I believe, after reading the argument, I think it's pretty on point. Arizona State University Professor Owen Anderson, thank you for taking a couple minutes to outline this with us. We'll link in the description Goldwater's outline on this so people can follow it. And we look forward to being at the victory party.
Thank you so much.
All right, really quick here, a little bit in the bonus tonus section of the show. I did want to bring a little bit of an update. So Thomas Massie, again, now after it being shown in the documents, the 6 individuals that he and Ro Khanna came out and said, these 6 names are redacted. And it shows that the way the documents are written, the way they're organized with paper clips, it shows that it's these 6 people are a bunch of filthy, disgusting bastards. They're terrible. Expose them. And then, they got the names out. Ro Khanna set them on the floor of the House. And it turned out, 4 of those guys that you just released their names, that now individuals have doxed and have threatened them, their families. They were just individuals who looked like persons of interest that the FBI brought in for a lineup. So in that instance, after that, now Thomas Massie, after being criticized for this, he has now come out with a new tweet on the matter that is definitely not like the pay attention to me kind of brand of action here. Quote, I am not suicidal. I eat healthy food. The brakes on my car and truck are in good shape. I practice good trigger discipline and never point a gun at anyone, including myself. There are no deep pools of water on my farm, and I'm a pretty good swimmer. Okay. All right. Oh, no, I have stood up to the truth. Therefore, I am now going to be suicided. No. You provided for the doxing of innocent individuals. And again, I'm thrilled to see anyone at all connected with Jeffrey Epstein who knew about what was going on and did nothing about it or encouraged it or played into it, that did not, for example, contact police and say, I know you've got Epstein, but you should really be looking at Ghislaine Maxwell. She's bringing him to him, like Trump did in 06. Anyone who did not do that kind of thing and was participating in something like this, well, yeah, I very much do believe they should be kicked out of public life and prosecuted appropriately, 100%, as does everyone in this instance. However, again, doxing innocent individuals, no. Now, does any of that exonerate Pam Bondi getting out there and doing the goof troop nonsense at the beginning of the 2025 year? No. Multiple things can be true at once. Good stuff there. All right, to the mail time here, because I did want to get into just a smidgen of some good mail time. The first question up here from Chuck V. Do you go home and practice your voice impressions? And how does your wife react? Occasionally, I used to on the side do a little bit of voice acting. My most famous got away story is that there was one time in which I was auditioning to be the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi in a Star Wars video game for EA, an unannounced one. I think it ended up being their remake of Battlefront 2. But it was because at the time, James Arnold Taylor, who does the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi in the animated Clone Wars series, was unavailable. He was doing a big stint at Disney, I think actually showing off his voice acting. And there's a really cool video of it online of James Arnold Taylor going from voice to voice. And so they did kind of a sort of open kind of tryout thing. And my group agent, because a lot of voice actors, they have like one person for a bunch of them, because voice actors are just not as special as, on-camera talent in the, acting world. Again, I'm not going to be able to say this fluently and like all especially because I'm not from Hollywood. I'm a Hoosier here in Eastern Central Indiana. So we got through a lot of different readings for the part. And the lines were just so it's like, Anakin, the Jedi Council will never stand for such frivolity. And that was the kind of stuff that, the lines we'd have to read. And then right as we were getting near the end, COVID hits. And so everybody's at home and all the voice actors are at home in their little home studios and he was suddenly available. Don't blame him. That's my fish that got away story. Only there. I've done like some other commercials and ads and stuff. My favorite voice to do is Gopher from Winnie the Pooh. Like, summer squash and honey. Aren't you that stuck-up bear? Like, you have a couple of favorite voices you do. My favorite political voice, it used to be Bernie Sanders. It has recently become Trump. I don't know, if you go back a year ago and you listen to when I would very rarely do the Trump voice, it was awful. It was really bad. Now it's getting a little better. I've learned the Trump voice has to do a lot with your lips. He sticks his lips out a lot. So there's that. My Bill Clinton voice, when he was a bit younger, isn't quite bad. You have a couple of them that are good. Some of them are really awful. I have long since tried to do the George W. voice. I don't think I can do it. And I do practice these occasionally around my wife, and she is almost always very annoyed. Very, very, very annoyed. So, it is what it is. There's also like a lot of pop culture and stuff. I'm known to quote Bandit from Smokey and the Bandit quite a bit, a little Burt Reynolds stuff. Again, maybe that's not, particularly exciting for you. A little Friday night kind of I like your Tim Walls too. That's a new one. That was the first, if you go back in the show for whatever reason, and you listen to the very first time that I do that voice, that was on the fly. I had never practiced that. And that's not like a talent thing. I think it's probably closer to a perfect pitch kind of a thing. Like where you can hear a note and say what it is. It probably makes it easier to mimic voices. Also, I'm just very weird. So, I don't know. That all said, why does your title lie? The DOJ doxed those women. I wasn't talking about the women. If you watch the rest of the show, you'll see that there are a group of men who Ro Khanna got out onto the floor and doxed. See, the cool thing is when you see a title, you then watch the video. It's really, really cool. Amazing things you can learn if you read or listen. Cool tips here. We'll be here all week. Next question. I really enjoy this one. From Delpix. Did the libertarians in government commit a blunder? They do most of the time. Libertarians are great for three things. Thing number one, libertarians are phenomenal for keeping everyone distrusting of government spending and the government monetary theory of paper-backed dollars built on debt being worth something. I'm very much of the opinion that the gold or the silver standard should be set on the dollar. I think that is a good thing. I don't think that paper that is based on the production of a people, which is what our dollar is based on, the debt and bonds, I don't think that's a good thing. I don't like that. And libertarians are awesome when it comes to criticizing that particular stuff. There's a huge crew of libertarians who are fans of crypto. I think crypto is a big scam because crypto requires power and internet to be worth anything. It requires it. Crypto's not worth a thing if the internet's not up. So like you're in Iran and the internet all goes down. How great is that crypto account there for you? I don't like it for that. The libertarians who are like, we'll control our own money. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. Again, gold or silver, tangible stuff I like. I keep a small amount of silver and ammunition at any given time. That's kind of my hedge on that side. I haven't said that on the show in a while. So the other two things libertarians are very, very good for are reminding everyone that government regulations suck when it comes to the economy and that the government making decisions on the economy, yeah, whether that's Bill Clinton style populism or Trump style populism, as much as I think that the fear mongering about some things has been really overblown, they are still right. Kind of laissez-faire economics is still preeminent. The last thing that libertarians are excellent for in government is slapping people on the right who start talking about firearms, who have no idea what they're talking about, have never held a firearm in their life. The kind of people who, refer to the kind of people who refer to these things as clips instead of magazines, and those that, like Kathy Hochul say, fire 1,200 rounds a minute, which at that point is like an A10. Warthog, not your local AR-15, or people on the right and like the red flag law nonsense. Libertarians are great for slapping against that. Other than that, again, I've said this before, libertarians should really just be a faction of the right and come to grips with reality instead of just always being the party that whines about everything and never gets anything done. And I say that as someone who's gone to several libertarian conventions. They're awful. When a group of grown men start complaining and arguing about the age of consent and driver's licenses and voting against the SAVE Act, Thomas, yeah, you lost me. There's theories, and then there's like actually living in the real world and getting things done. Now, Congress isn't known for getting things done in general, but again, that's kind of my issue, kind of on the libertarian side of things. From Critical Mass Systems, were those furries who are tossing the dildos? Probably were furries who were tossing the sex toys. I mean, also regular, really just bizarre looking people. Yeah, there's a lot of weird crews out there that are in favor of like Don Lemon at protests. And again, if the reason you're out there holding up a sex toy is because Don is a gay man, that's a little on the nose for the stereotype. I saw a lot of comments about that earlier asking if that's why. If that's true, yikes. That's disturbing. Next question that I'm a fan of here. From Eric Witak. What did you teach when you were a teacher? I taught science. So my first 2 years teaching in Indiana, because I also taught some when I was in Wisconsin, but my first 2 years teaching in Indiana, I taught middle school science at Knightstown Intermediate School. Loved it. Some of the things that pushed me into writing politically was just immediately the nonsense that I saw in public education. I got a Teacher of the Year award my first 2 years teaching at Knightstown, and that was a problem because I was a brand new teacher. Why am I getting awards? That was a problem. And then I also despised kind of the mommy teacher aesthetic, where you never actually had discipline. You were just like, oh, you never have to do anything in life. Just be a little awful person and everything will be wonderful. That kind of DEI crap. So I wrote about it. All of my articles are still up, even the really awful ones. But whether they were at Lone Conservative, which I think the archive is still up, and then later on to the other outlets that I started writing for, Daily Caller, The Federalist, Daily Wire, Fox News, National Review, and on and on. I ended up, after getting married, went to teach at Lawrence North in Indianapolis, Fishers, Lawrence area, northeastern Indianapolis. And that was a sub-space urban environment. I said not suburban, but like suburban. because there were inner city parts to the school and also kind of the suburban elements to the school. I taught biology and some anatomy and physiology, and that was real interesting. Good times there. Got a couple of master's degrees that were worthless from Ball State University. One in education technology, in which my thesis was there's probably going to be something that keeps students at home at some point, so we probably should have education infrastructure that doesn't suck. I wrote that in 2019, and next year we had COVID. A little fun fact there. My other master's degrees in curriculum development, which is why there are all these textbooks behind me. I really love like the art of the pedagogy, which is what you do with the curriculum, how you teach the thing, because this is how humans talk to each other. Teaching through narrative, it's a very big thing. So that's why I'm passionate about education. After that, I was an administrator at Indianapolis Public Schools. I was the science director. The terminology for them would be science coordinator. So I was in charge of all of the science teachers in Indianapolis Public School, from elementary up through 12th grade. When I got to do my job, it was awesome. I had a little office in Broad Ripple that was a broom cupboard. I was happy with it. Pearson tried to bribe me for $75,000 to make sure that Pearson was the school curriculum brand that IPS bought, because we did textbook process adoption while I was there. I'll never forget being in the basement of St. Elmo's Steakhouse when they told me that. Yep. Hoofton Mifflin also tried to bribe me, but their bribe was nowhere near as good. I turned them both down, for the record, by the way, still on there. And then that's where the whole education scandal comes into play, which is a topic for another time, because it's 8:22 and I've been, answering this particular question for a while. I was also at this time running an education outlet called Chalkboard Review that we had founded to air teachers' opinions and parents' opinions on education, because again, that was still when no one was allowed to talk unless you were an expert in a field and you had one particular point of view. So we'll get into that maybe just a little bit later. So fun stuff there. Pedagogy is, I'm guessing, the word that you didn't like. I pronounce it pedagogy. People who pronounce it pedagogy, I don't necessarily trust as much, but it's pedagogy. Sorry, just in case that's the word. And yeah, I am 30. So again, for those of you who think that I'm in my mid 40s, I'm afraid not. And why have I done a bunch of random things? Like I'll talk about pilot stuff or playing in a jazz orchestra, things like that. ADHD would be the answer to that. The fascination with things as soon as they happen. And one of the reasons that I like doing this kind of a thing. So those things for the side. I saw your debate with Adam Mockler and Brad Palumbo. Oh, that's not a question. Oh, they were just saying they saw the debate. Yes, I did recently debate the Super Bowl and the controversy at the halftime show with leftist Adam Mockler and Brad Palumbo, libertarian guy. It was a fun debate. Good times. I think that I might have disappointed them both, because they probably wanted me to jump in and say that the Super Bowl halftime show was the worst thing ever and I was heartbroken and crying for 3.5 days, and I didn't. I was trying to do the whole Bernie Moreno thing where you're just like calm and like, nah, I don't really watch the Super Bowl for the halftime show. I watch it for the sports, even though I also hate the NFL. So probably not your best guy for it, but alas, that kind of thing. So that side of things. Why do I look older? Because I'm ugly. It's the facial hair, to be honest with you. I grew a beard early on after I figured out that it looks decent. And I think it's just the facial hair. The facial hair does it, the glasses. Also, the bags under my eyes are just from being really exhausted from nonsense. One of those things. I don't know. I guess I look a little bit older. I'm sure there will be a day when I'll be more probably upset about that than I am now. As someone pointed out, I look like a weird cross between J.D. Vance and Matt Walsh, and for that I say thank you. Yes, we absolutely have heard that before. That is why there's a J.D. Vance bobblehead up there at the top left-hand side of the screen that I was given very kindly for Christmas. So, all right. Nice, fun stuff. Again, hopefully the stream quality was excellent for you guys this particular, evening. Hopefully things on that side were fine. I really appreciate you guys stopping by on your Friday evening. If you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate if you threw a like on it. I would. That would be really great. If you've liked the video, super. Yeah, really appreciate it. Come back Monday. We're going to have more. Oh, maybe not Monday, because President's Day is Monday and we're preempt. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm probably going to breathe after this crazy week that we've had. So when we're back next, Daily Signal here on YouTube, and maybe some streaming platforms that we're going to look into. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. Oh yeah, one final thing. For the little teaser here that I'm about to play, I'm very honored to have been invited back to my alma mater in Wisconsin to speak at our business leadership conference. Really thrilled. And the link to that particular thing, if you want to grab a ticket and come see us, or whatever, that's whether you're in the area, please don't drive a long way for this or whatever, for whatever reason you might do that. But if you're in the area, you want to come out, grab a ticket and hang out there, the link is at the end of the video. Matt Davis, the CEO of Maranatha, he'll tell you where that is. So I remember a question that was unanswered about that before. So, all right, that's enough yammering. Take care.
I'm Matt Davis, CEO here at Maranatha Baptist University, and I'd like to invite you personally to Maranatha's 4th annual Leader to Leader Conference on March 5th and 6th here in Watertown, Wisconsin. This event, sponsored by our School of Business, offers 2 days of practical insights, valuable connections, and leadership development that will impact your career no matter your field. This year's conference includes keynotes from Ken Barbic, a Maranatha graduate and former Senate-confirmed Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, and currently serving as a senior lobbyist and advisor to Fortune 500 companies. My friend Tony Kinnett, another Maranatha grad who now serves as a national correspondent and syndicated radio host for the Daily Signal. And Adam Morgan, president of Majesty Music and a former member of South Carolina's legislature. Becoming a more intentional, effective leader starts here. Take the next step in your leadership journey and join us March 5th and 6th for 2 days of learning, networking, and growth that will set the tone for the rest of your year. To learn more, visit mbu.edu/leader-to-leader. Can't wait to see you here on Maranatha's beautiful campus, March 5th and 6th for the 4th annual Leader to Leader Conference.